NordicTrack and ProForm are two separate connected fitness equipment brands that are both owned by iFIT, both connect to the iFIT platform, and both share a lot of similarities. But they do have their differences. And if you're looking for an iFIT-enabled bike, rower, or treadmill, well, you have 5 bikes to choose from, 6 rowers, and a whopping 12 treadmills. With this many choices, it's almost impossible not to be overwhelmed, especially since it's not super easy to tell what the differences are between all of these different models, and which one of them is going to have the best combination of features or the best value for what you're looking for. Now, it would be way too much to try and cover all of the differences between every single piece of equipment that ProForm and NordicTrack make. So today we are going to be digging into just the 5 bikes. And when doing the research for this video, some of this stuff blew my mind, including one of the bikes which you theoretically can get for free. And I'll cover all of that at the end of the video. So let's get this whole thing sorted out. Hey, this is Colin with Connect the Watts, where we focus on providing you with the latest connected fitness news, reviews, and guides. Now, from NordicTrack, you have 2 options to choose from. The NordicTrack S22i, which costs $1,999, and the NordicTrack S15i, which is $1,599. Then from ProForm, you have 3 options. The ProForm Bike Pro 22, priced at $1,299, the ProForm Carbon CX, which is $599, and the ProForm Studio Bike Pro that is free with a 3-year iFIT family membership. So let's break it all down. First, I want to talk about some of the main differences between all NordicTrack and ProForm bikes. The NordicTrack bikes are obviously more expensive, and the primary differences are that both the S22i and S15i bikes come with an incline and decline control, which allows your bikes to reach all the way up to a 20% incline and a 10% decline. You can control this yourself, but mostly this is controlled automatically during your rides as it adjusts for the terrain that you are riding through. So if you start going up a big hill, your bike will incline up as well, changing your center of gravity as well as increasing the resistance, which definitely makes each ride feel a lot more immersive. ProForm bikes, on the other hand, do not have this incline and decline control, so if you go up a hill on these bikes, the resistance will still automatically go up, but there obviously won't be a physical incline. This, I would say, is the primary difference between these 2 brands. Another difference between NordicTrack and ProForm is how you control the resistance. On the NordicTrack, you have buttons directly on the handlebars that allow you to make adjustments. On the ProForm, you actually have to make all of your resistance adjustments on the screen. Now, this may seem like a big difference, and I thought it would be, but after using both brands, adjusting your resistance on the screen just didn't turn out to be a big deal. The only thing that you really lose is not being able to see the leaderboard at the same time, since they are both in the same area of the screen. But I don't really use the iFIT leaderboard very much, so I don't really mind. And iFIT recently came out with a new Smart Adjust feature on all of the bikes, which adjusts the workout automatically based on what the instructor is suggesting, the terrain you are on, and how fit you are, or how hard in general that you like your rides to be. And it works really well, so I honestly don't find myself adjusting the resistance very much at all. The next difference between these 2 brands are some of the extra bells and whistles. NordicTrack comes with a fan installed at the bottom of the screen, a tray to hold your phone in the front, and 2 bottle holders. Whereas ProForm, there is no fan, no tray, and they only have 1 bottle holder at the bottom of the bike that is less secure. Now, to be fair, the bottle holder is functional and I don't have a problem with it, but it's certainly not as nice as NordicTrack's. And finally, there are some adjustment and cosmetic differences, of course. Adjustment-wise, the main difference is that the ProForm is a much bigger pain in the butt to adjust. You really have to loosen these things all of the way to get them to move, whereas the NordicTrack is quite a bit easier and faster. Something to consider if you frequently share your bike with somebody else. Also, the NordicTrack bike is suggested for use up to 350 pounds, whereas the ProForm bike is only suggested up to 250 pounds. So if you weigh more than 250 pounds, that may be an important factor. And cosmetically, it's not that the ProForm looks bad. Well, it kind of does if you look underneath it, since they have a lot more exposed, but in general, it just doesn't look quite as nice as the NordicTrack bike does. Now, in terms of similarities, both the NordicTrack and ProForm have automatic resistance control and smart adjust. Again, this is a super nice feature that allows you to just enjoy the ride, push yourself, and immerse yourself into these amazing locations that iFIT films their programs at. All of the bikes here have magnetic resistance, which makes the bike super smooth, quiet, and I'm actually pretty impressed that the ProForm has this on all of their bikes since they are so much cheaper. And all of the bikes have dumbbell holders, which have weights included. And honestly, most of the other things about these bikes are pretty darn similar. Even the fact that none of them have a power off button. If you want the screen to turn off, you just have to unplug it. So now that we've covered the primary differences between these two brands, it's time to get a bit more nuanced into each of the individual bikes. And it's not as straightforward as you would think. So the S22i is the big dog, the most premium bike with the most bells and whistles. And really, it's very similar to the S15i in almost every single way, except for two things: the size of the screen and the resistance levels. The S22i has a 22-inch rotating screen, which makes sense, S22i, right? And the S15i has a, well, you might think a 15-inch screen, but you'd be wrong, a 14-inch screen that also rotates. The smaller screen also fits into a bigger encasement, which allows them to have adjustments on the outside of the screen as well here, which is actually kind of nice because if you want to increase resistance 5 levels, you don't have to push a button 5 times. You can just push the exact resistance level that you would like. So that's the main difference. And the other difference is the number of resistance levels available. The S22i has 24 resistance levels, whereas the S15i only has 22. Not a huge deal if you aren't crushing the resistance on your rides. And not to flex too hard, but I do use the 24 level resistance occasionally. And just as a reminder, there is a $400 difference between these two bikes, which makes it a pretty tough call. Personally, I always enjoy the bigger screen, but how much that's worth is really up to you. Now, let's dig into the 3 ProForm bikes. So here is the top ProForm bike, the ProForm Studio Bike Pro 22, which I've been using a lot lately for an upcoming review. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And yes, as the name suggests, it includes a 22-inch rotating screen, similar to the S22i. It also has 24 levels of resistance like the S22i. So in some ways, this bike is actually better than the S15i with its bigger screen and more resistance levels, despite the fact that it's $300 cheaper. But again, it's missing the incline decline, the handlebar buttons, fans, etc., all of the things we already went over. But it's really important to consider how much you value each of these differences, because this bike compared to the S22i, well, that's a $700 difference. Now, ProForm's lowest cost bike, the ProForm CX, costs just $599, still with magnetic resistance, still with automatic resistance control, which is tremendous value for a bike that is priced this low. But what you lose here is the screen. Instead, there's a tablet holder here that you can use, which it'll connect to over Bluetooth, and you do lose quite a bit of resistance levels as well. This one only goes up to 16 instead of 24. But if you're looking for a really good bike in this price range, it's a really good deal. And now the strangest of them all, at least the hardest to evaluate, and that is the mid-tier ProForm Studio Bike Pro. Now this is similar to the Studio Bike Pro 22, except you guessed it, without the 22-inch screen. The screen is teeny tiny, coming in at 10 inches, but you can still rotate it as well to take classes off of the bike. It also only has 22 levels of resistance compared to 24, but the big thing about this bike is that it's actually, quote, free, sort of. Well, not really, but let's figure it out. The ProForm Studio Bike is free with a 3-year iFIT family membership. And a 3-year iFIT family membership is $39 per month for 36 months, so essentially $1,403.
So wait, doesn't that make it more expensive than the ProForm Studio Pro Bike 22?
Well, no, not quite. But in order to figure it all out, you will have to do some math, figuring out how much all of these bikes are going to cost you over a period of 3 years. See, if you buy any other bike, whether it's ProForm or NordicTrack, you will also have to pay for a monthly membership, which is $39 a month. They do give you a free month, but let's ignore that for now to make things more simple. So if you look at each of these bikes over a 3-year period, including the membership fees, here's what you get. The S22i costs $3,402. The S15i costs $3,002. The Studio Bike Pro 22 costs $2,702. The ProForm CX costs $2,002. And the Studio Bike Pro here only cost $1,403. So when you break it all down over a period of 3 years, the ProForm Studio Bike is probably the best value. It's less than half of the NordicTrack bikes, $1,300 cheaper than the ProForm Studio Pro Bike 22, and $600 cheaper than even the ProForm CX. It really did shock me when I figured this all out, and I'm amazed at how good a value this bike is. Now, you can also find the ProForm Studio Bike Pro on Amazon for around $1,000, but again, you'll have to pay for a monthly membership, which means you're going to be paying $1,000 more from Amazon over a 3-year period. And yes, you should be aware that iFIT does commonly discount their yearly memberships at about 25% off, but even still, the Studio Bike Pro is a really impressive offer. Now, if you want to see how iFIT's most premium bike, the S22i, compares to Peloton's most premium bike, the Bike Plus, make sure to watch our comparison video here and let me know in comments which iFIT bike you like the best or which one you are thinking about purchasing. Looking forward to hearing what you think, and I'll see you next time.